Hey, welcome to another episode of Q&A with Jay. I'm excited about today's question because it's a really important one and it's something that's hard to get right, honestly. So the question that was submitted is this: how do you hire your first employee? Full transparency, I didn't do this very well originally because I really didn't know what I was doing. And ultimately, I think a lot of people experience this. They get to a point where they just have so much work to do, they're kind of in a panic, they need somebody else to help. Now on the surface, that's actually a really good problem because I know for me, there were many years where I thought to myself, I wonder if I'll ever have enough work just for me to make it through the whole week. And then you get to that point where you really realize you need another team member, you need an actual full-time employee, or even a part-time employee. It can feel kind of overwhelming. But here's the big mistake that people make. They hire too fast. Now, there are a lot of opinions on this, but I'm going to tell you with 20 years of growth at my agency, here's what I believe about it. I believe that you should hire slow, and I believe that you should fire even slower. Some people say hire fast, fire slow, whatever. But for me, it is hire slow and fire even slower. And let's talk about hiring specifically, especially that first employee, because that's what the question is, from solopreneur to entrepreneur. The first thing that I would say is start with contractors. If you don't already utilize people in a contract type role, you should, I would even say you must, do that before you actually hire someone as an employee. To me, when you hire a contractor or a freelancer, there is an embedded understanding between each of you that this is for a project, it's for a time, it's for a season. But when you hire an employee, at least for me, that's a very serious commitment. I'm saying, hey, I'm going to do my absolute best to take care of you and to serve you. And let me be really clear too, this is a little bit of a side tangent, but if you're the CEO of a company, your team's job is not to serve you, your job is to serve them. That is actually your job if you want to develop a good culture. So when you hire that first person, you got to be thinking, how can I serve this individual? But when you're trying to decide who that person needs to be, however many interviews you think you need, you probably need to triple that. You need to have more conversations, especially in more casual settings. I'm a big fan of taking somebody out to coffee, taking them out to lunch when they get kind of farther in that interview cycle, because you can get a little bit more of a feel for somebody than them coming into an office, sitting down with a desk and being prepared for an interview. I also really like asking questions that are outside of the norm. So I love asking somebody what their favorite movie is. I love asking them what their favorite book is. It gives a lot of insight into kind of who they are as people. And to me, I really believe in hiring for kind of their attitude over their aptitude. So I want someone who is a team player first, and they need to be able to do the actual work, obviously, but I don't want to hire somebody who's an amazing all-star at the work that they do, but they're a total jerk. So that's really, really important. Don't make that mistake. My favorite resource as it relates to this and figuring out who to bring on your team is a book by a guy named Patrick Lencioni called The Ideal Team Player. And in that book, he says that each team member needs to have 3 specific qualities. They need to be humble, they need to be hungry, and they need to be smart. There's a resource that I can link up to this video, or you can just search for Ideal Team Player Worksheet, and it will give you some specific questions to think through as it relates to that person. If you have somebody who's humble, hungry, and smart, you're going to have a huge advantage when growing that initial team. So take your time. The last thing that I do, which I stole from Dave Ramsey and the EntreLeadership Organization, is we do a spousal interview. Now, it's not really an interview. What we do is when we get down to kind of the final person or final 2 people maybe, myself and my wife will take that prospective team member and their spouse out to dinner. It's not a formal interview, but you get to see them in a more casual setting. And assuming they're married with their spouse, you also are getting to kind of see their interaction with the most important person, hopefully, in their life. And that can have real insight. And in those environments, I also trust the intuition of my wife. I didn't do this in the early days, I do it now. And if she were to say, which she's never actually done, but if she were to say, look, I just don't think you should hire that person, I just have a bad feeling about them, I'm not going to hire that person. Now, some of you might think that's crazy. I don't really care. it works because you get an outside view, an outside perspective. So the biggest thing I would say when you're hiring a new person is take your time. Do not hire out of panic. You can hire a contractor out of panic because you just need somebody to get some work done over a short basis. Do not hire an employee out of panic. And focus on who that person is, because it's like bringing somebody into a fold pretty close, and you're essentially promising to help take care of that person. So take your time, hire slower than you think you need to, and try and get some of that personal interaction in settings like coffee or lunch or dinner, especially the spousal interview at the end, because it will give you insights that you didn't have before. If you're going to hire your first person, you have other questions about that, leave them in the comments. I will come back through and answer those specifically for you. Growing a team is one of the best things you can do as a business owner, because it takes what is essentially just a job and turns it into an actual business. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Good luck.